Hey guys, to show our anticipation for our new release, Mr. Majestic, which is our plum-based head turner fragrance, I thought I'd do another iteration of Bedroom Perfumery where we create our own plum fragrance today with a new and interesting idea and concept, and then show it off to a friend and see their reaction on camera, because that's always funny at my expense. This episode hopefully will let you guys see just how accessible perfumery can be. I'm not going to go through all the steps on how to make your own bedroom perfumery. We've got episode 1 we did ages ago, which you can watch to see how you set up your own lab and how you can learn about the basics of perfumery. Once you learn the basics, you can pretty much do whatever you want. I say perfumery is really more of an art than a science, actually. There's a lot of intuition and creativity you can put into it. You can put your own creative twist once you get into it. I would see it as painting. You know, anyone can paint, but of course it takes time and years to become an expert and master, and that's what perfumery is like as well. To remind you guys, I learned my basics in my course that I did with John Stephen in the Cotswold Perfumery over here in the Cotswolds in the UK. I got most of my materials are from the Cotswold Perfumery as well, from the same people. And then I also learned from Sam Macer's YouTube channel. He's a fantastic channel that actually teaches you the technical side of perfumery. Go check them out if you haven't, guys. So today I'm basically going back to the material I mentioned before in our earlier videos about this material here called Prunella, which is essentially the base note that creates a plum note in perfumery. I mentioned before, guys, that it's quite a intense, sweet, synthetic note that is very strong, so I feel like you only need to add a little amount in your perfume to give that plum effect. It sort of has this very ripened plum and prune effect to a fragrance. I'm going to show you guys my creative process of how I make fragrances. As I said, I'm not a master, but this video series is not about being completely, expert. It's about being accessible and just showing you how anyone can make fragrances. So we're going to do a voiceover now where I'm going to talk about my process and show you guys how I would create my own plum fragrance and how we'd go about it. Now, there are many different ways to create your own fragrances, but this is how I do it. I first of all pick up the hero note that I insist must be in the creation, and that's going to be Prunella to give us that big plum note we want in there. I remind myself what Prunella smells like. I dip my paper notes in there, and notice how I'm not rubbing the paper strip onto my nose directly. I'm kind of floating it around, making sure your nose doesn't get too tired too quickly. I then appreciate how it smells, and I sort of understand what notes it would work with, because I appreciate how my notes that I have in my collection already work. You appreciate your raw materials, you smell all of them, start with a small amount when you're starting off to appreciate what you already have and work your way up from there. I have this concept in my mind. I need a vanillic and a malic plum note. So the 3 notes I have to have in there are civet, ethyl vanillin, which sort of gives a vanilla extract note, and then we have the plum from Prunella. And how I blend my fragrances together is a technique I learned from Sam Macer as well as Roger Dove, which is called the fanning technique, which I call that anyways. I dip one note, so the Prunella, and I dip the civet, and essentially I fan them next to each other and I sort of wave them in front of my face, sort of creating a preview to your nose of how they would work together in the air. Sort of you create a mini sillage to see if the notes work together. Do they blend together? Do they make sense together? I agree to myself that yes, they do, but then you also appreciate how strong each note is, because you have to decide what ratio you're going to do. I decide that civet is a very strong note and it's probably stronger than the Prunella, so I'm going to do a ratio of 4:1. So I'm putting in 8 drops of Prunella and then 2 drops of civet. After I've added those 2 ingredients to my vial, I then go and dip that new compound again and sort of see it as a new note, and I essentially repeat the process. I want to add ethyl vanillin. Let's see if this combination compound now works with the ethyl vanillin. So again, I fan them out and see, does my ethyl vanillin work with this combination of plum and civet? And essentially you do this with each note you add. I always start from the base notes in my creations, then work up to the mid notes, then to the top notes. It's fine to make mistakes on the way. At one point I tried to add Virginia cedarwood and it actually didn't work well, so I ended up having to cross that off on my notes, and I quickly remade the formula again. It's always easier to add more later on in perfumery than to take away. It's kind of like cooking itself. So basically I repeated this process, and I'll give you guys a quick rundown of what I eventually added based on my knowledge of notes and also what I thought would work well here. So in the base we put in Prunella, civet, ethyl vanillin, and javanol. And big shout out to javanol. It's a great sandalwood note that gives a sort of cleanliness, thickness, and a bit of projection to your fragrance. In the mid, I put in exaltalide, which sort of gives a nice clean muskiness to the fragrance, and hedione. Hedione is used pretty much in every single perfume in modern times. It gives a different texture to your fragrance. Because this fragrance is very base heavy, it's going to be too thick. Hedione airs it out, freshens it up, and makes it a bit more of an airy and easier to like fragrance overall. In the top, I added apple and bergamot oil. Bergamot is a very easy citrus. It's middle of the road that works with pretty much every single scent profile. Extremely versatile. And apple here, the note I have here is more of a red, ripe apple that has a bit of sweetness, which I feel works well with the plum. Bear in mind, I'm recording the amount of drops I'm adding for each of these notes as I'm going along. You would obviously add a lot more if you want to create a higher amount of volume for your compound, but I've only created a small amount because this is bedroom perfumery. We're just adding things for fun. We're not using a huge amount of material, so we can experiment more later on. Once you're happy with your formula, you give it a nice name to round it off. I'm going to call this creation Plum Animal. I'm quite happy with this creation. It feels like it is the concept we wanted. It has enough of that animalicness of the civet to make sure it's a prominent character. The plum is there. It's quite interesting and unique. So I've now created a small amount of my creation, which I have titled the Plum Animal. This example has about 8 ingredients. In real life, a fully produced perfume might have something like 50 ingredients in there. But when you're starting out, less is more. That's kind of what I'm showing to you guys here. I've kept it very simple and you can still create something very nice. I have it on my skin now. I've applied it to my hand and I think I will describe it as the correct concept. I tried to make a vanillic plum animalic scent with the civet, and I think I've achieved that, but it's also ended up becoming something that I didn't quite expect. And that's what happens when you make perfumery. You make something that ends up being bigger than your own imagination. It's not always exact, but that's how the skill needs to develop. You need to become better to really make things more accurate to the concept in your mind. So I would describe this scent as quite thick, very creamy, rich. It's very base heavy, so I'm glad we added the hedione to air it out and freshen it up. And it's quite fruity as well. The apple and the plum are working very nicely here, so it's like a very fruity, thick, creamy scent. It's quite masculine, I'd say, but at the same time it smells quite clean and balanced. I think probably both genders could wear this, actually. It's just very nice, actually, and it makes you very proud. The more, if you use this method I'm telling you guys about, it just makes you slow down and really work step by step with each perfume ingredient. You notice that I removed Virginian cedarwood because I didn't like it. I think it ruined the formulation, and that's how perfumery is. In reality, I will now carry on working on this formulation, make it better, more creative, complex, work out the longevity, the projection of this perfume. You take many, many iterations to create a perfume to market. So bear that in mind. This is just for fun, guys, and to show you guys how easy it is to just create something for yourself. Now I'm going to go to my friend and ask for her reaction and see what she thinks of my creation. You're going to see her reaction now.
Feminine, like
it's too feminine, okay.
Too sweet also, but it's nice. It's
too sweet, but nice.
Yeah, it's a little bit like heavy.
It is quite heavy, yeah.
It's nice. It might be a little bit less sweet. I might like it more.
If it's less what, sir? You have to speak up.
Like less sweeter, I might like it more.
Less sweet, you like it more, okay. And what would you give it out of 10?
6.
6 out of 10. Cool. I made it myself, so I'll take a 6 out of 10. Nice. And there you have it, guys. Plum Animal is a 6 out of 10, which from a first try from an amateur perfumer like myself is a pretty good score. I'll take it. Mr. Majestic is a 10 out of 10. This is why I let the professionals do the perfumery, but I like to do my own stuff in my room just to get a basic understanding of the art and try to get some ideas flowing for our own creation. So it just kind of helps me to sort of understand what's going on in perfumery. And I hope this video encourages you guys to do your own perfumery someday. Go take a course, go set up your own lab and see if you can go creating. See that it's quite accessible. If someone like me can create it, then anyone can, guys, trust me. If you haven't already, make sure you have signed up for notifications of Mr. Majestic's pre-order release, because that is the only time you'll ever be able to buy Mr. Majestic. We make it to order, so it's very exclusive. Only the people who pre-ordered will ever get a bottle of Mr. Majestic. We've done the full introduction video of it, the public reactions of it. You can see what people think of it. It is going to be a fantastic plum-based masculine fragrance. So click in the description down below to sign up to be notified. It's going to be on sale for 5 days only, from the 30th of October to the 3rd of November for 500 bottles max. So if it's 500 bottles reached before the 5 days, then that's it, it's over. These perfumery videos take a lot more effort and time to make, guys. I really hope you enjoyed it. Let us know your feedback down below if you want to see more bedroom perfumery. Thank you for watching, guys. Make sure to check out episode 1 of Bedroom Perfumery so you can set up your own lab. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.